Welcome to my conversation with the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia. Call him General Mosquito. He's my guest on the show. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for being here. You know, I've always wondered what it is like being a General Secretary of a party, particularly one in opposition, when you came into the position and the party was in power. So how is it like?
Well, there is not much difference. The only difference is how your work differs a little. When you are in power, you are worried about issues in cabinet because you attend cabinet meetings, and there is the leadership of the party is split into two because you have the leader as a president, and then he is also a leader of government, and then you have the rest of the party also at party headquarters. So there are issues about coordination. There are also issues about communication, because you have government communication and then party communication. So how to coordinate their work and how to draw the line as to who should do what becomes challenging. Otherwise, when you are in opposition, everything is straightforward. Your leader, if it's a presidential candidate, he's not in government, so he's the leader of the party and so on. So communication becomes streamlined and then focused on the same issues. Yeah.
Is being in opposition as terrible as we're made to think sometimes that it is?
Well, if those in government do their work well, and you are in a political party in opposition, I cannot see what difference it makes in your life. But in Ghana, and I dare say in the third world, it's not always like that. You are haunted in opposition, and whatever sources of income you have, the people in government try as much as possible to squeeze those things to make you play ball with them. Okay, so that is the difference. So when you heard Atta Mills and President Mahama saying that Father for all, let us change into a new paradigm so that our politics is cleaned up, and then you remove things like victimization and so on will be removed from it. That is, and then you have another system where they say, oh no, it's just we are in power and let us do.
So are you being squeezed right now? Are they squeezing you so you can play ball?
Oh, sure.
How are they doing it?
First of all, my son is out of work. He happens to be working with a private company at the harbor. Now that private company operates with a government license. And then you have the management of GPHA squeezing that private company that unless and until my son is sacked, the license will be withdrawn. So my son has to be sacked. So he's in the house as I speak to you.
Really?
Yes. And then also, I'm a block maker. Everybody knows that I'm a block maker. Because of the quality of my blocks, maybe people engaged in maybe government projects and so on would want to buy because of the recommendations of consultants and so on. So somebody on a government project comes to buy huge quantities of my pavement blocks. And then government gets to know that this contractor is owing Asiedu Nketia. So if he is paid, then Asiedu Nketia's business will run. So the contractor, 3 years now, has not been paid. And because I trusted him, and so offered him that credit, all my capital on in the block factory here in Accra is locked up. And it is not as if the government institution does not have the money. The money is ready.
But simply because...
But somehow they won't pay you. You go there today, they talk about one thing here, another thing here, another thing.
How much are we talking about here?
Well, let's keep that for now.
But so how is that impacting on your business?
So the business in Accra here is not functioning again. All the workers, they have sent them home. So it's not working. So these are some of the little
But they're doing that to you simply because you're General Mosquito, you're the General Secretary of the NDC. They're doing that to your son, for instance, because you're General Mosquito?
Yes, because the Gapoha instruction they gave to that businessman, when he said, why? I'm doing my private business, blah, blah, blah. Then they said, look, Asiedu Nketia's son is too politically exposed. When he's here, engaged in clearing of goods and so on, he can import weapons to come and overthrow government, so he must be kicked out.
So how long has your son been home for now?
More than 3 years.
Not working?
Not working. Asiedu Nketia Jr. It's called Asiedu Nketia Jr. And there are several instances. My daughter was also working with another government institution involved in auditing. Because you see, the way I organize my life when I brought up my children, they are very, very strict when it comes to speaking the truth and remaining with the facts. So she happened to be working with a government institution that in the internal audit department of a government institution. She was sent on assignment and given instruction to find something to implicate an innocent person for political reasons. And he says she cannot do that. She will work, these are her findings. She will let somebody else go and redo the work. But she will not sign anything, but she will make her findings because he cannot go and implicate an innocent person. So she came back. And then they had to remove him from head office auditing to some district branch in Greater Accra. When he went there, the manager there says, there is no desk for you. So I said, well, but I will come to work every day anyway. She was at some point called that, why is it that everybody who is connected with NDC since the changeover has been leaving and you are still here? Are you not the daughter of Asiedu Nketia? I said, yes, I'm the daughter of Asiedu Nketia. But I applied for this work and I was recruited on merit. So anybody who wants to sack me, let the person sack me, but I'm not living here. So there may be a day
was she sacked? Did she leave?
I'm saying that she was sent somewhere because she refused to implicate an innocent person. So she was sent from head office to some district office somewhere. When she went, the person she was going to work under said that there was no desk for her.
But she's still at this place?
So she has gotten a Chinese government scholarship, so she's doing her PhD now in China.
Do you regret getting yourself involved in this whole politics, seeing that your family directly is being affected?
Not at all. In fact, my family enjoys it. If they are being punished because of the work they want to do to help humanity, then they like it.
But you have a son. I can imagine it's a grown son who's been out of work for 3 years.
Yes.
Because of you, his dad.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, well, we are serving government. Why? If you ask Jesus, how does it make him feel being crucified? Because the objects of the service is much bigger than these little things.
Interesting. So let's talk about the bigger entity, the NDC. 5 years to a major elections with campaign being hampered because of COVID-19. 5 months. Did I say 5 days?
You said 5 years.
Okay. I'm in a hurry. But essentially, I'm asking, how is the NDC faring?
Well, we are managing within the circumstances. All that we care about is that if the playing field is even and the restrictions are affecting every other political party equally, then there's no cheating. When we get into
if the playing field is even. Isn't it?
And no. And that is the reason why we are fighting back. The playing field is not even, and there are other attempts to make sure that the playing field never becomes even, so that people who don't deserve the mandate of Ghanaians will get it through the back door. And that is why we are fighting.
Please help us understand how the field is not even when the restrictions, for instance, that the president announced affects everybody, because he said political parties. So we understand that all political activities have come to a halt, but you're allowed to do your press conferences every now and then.
No, political party has not come to a halt. There's active political party going, active politicking going on in the field. I can show you a video of MPP people campaigning actively.
And NDC has been quiet?
You can tell me if you see them, if you have seen them campaign.
No, my point is you've seen the NPP do something that goes against the directive, and you haven't made noise about it.
Oh, we've spoken about it, but that is the point. That is the whole point of the uneven playing field. You are squeezed out of the media space. You are squeezed in terms of security. You are squeezed in terms of access to justice. You are squeezed in terms of virtually everything.
Mr. Asiedu Nketia, how are you squeezed out of the media when you have all these access? I mean, we have a conversation with you, for instance.
You remember that this government clamped down on more than 100 media houses. And they came and said that, oh, we are implementing the law. If you are implementing the law, you must believe in the rule of law. So if anybody is dissatisfied with what government is doing or a regulator is doing, that person has access to a court. But where the government, whose responsibility it is to put in place the facility that will do the hearing, and the government says, well, we are not constituting the court, so you don't have anywhere to go. There is a tribunal that deals with issues about this, media regulations and so on. So if you have a problem, a media house has a problem with a regulator, and they feel dissatisfied, the appeal goes to the tribunal. That tribunal has been denied a chairman for several years now, so therefore no case can be dealt with, and the chairman has to be appointed by the president. So you cannot take those matters to another court, and the court that is designated to hear those things has been crippled, and then your license have been wrongly revoked. And when you go to the field, the selection of the media houses that have been clamped down, it is very clear that it is politically motivated. And so we thank some of you who are doing your work, but you know the media space is not as even as you may want. There are individual media houses who want to do professional work, but truth be told, many other media houses are politically aligned. And so
don't you have your own political?
Those are the ones that have
political outlets as well.
Everybody knows that Radio Gold was a major radio station through which many of the NDC policymakers, leaders want to ventilate their issues, and many listeners across the country listen to Radio XYZ and all those things. With one stroke of a pen, all of them closed down. So that is one of the issues about the media landscape being unfair. Now, when you go to government, state media establishments, which are bound by the Constitution to be fair to every player in the system, go find out what Graphic is doing, what Ghana Broadcasting is doing, and so on.
What are they doing to you?
I can't remember the last time we invited GTV to a press conference and they came and, you know,
to cover your event.
To cover and then to
and the daily graphic too?
Go and air it. I don't remember the last time they did so.
So are you saying that they haven't been carrying your stories?
Well, I'm saying that they are not fair in their coverage. That the Constitution says that they have to operate fairly. And NPP has had occasion to go to court to seek Supreme Court rulings that state media houses are under obligation to give equitable coverage.
So why don't you also go to court then?
Well, maybe if we deal with this type of issues, you will see that when you get to the court too, there are other issues, but I prefer to let us live. What is happening to the Supreme Court now?
What has happened to the Supreme Court? The last time I checked, we had 4 nominees who had been approved by Parliament just yesterday.
You have a Supreme Court where all of us were worried about a particular case during President Kufuor's term, where the Supreme Court delivered a judgment. And then the Attorney General at that time and the President were ranting that it is not on. This thing must be reversed. The decision must be reversed. It was about what the constitutionality of a fast track High Court also. Then the President, it must be reversed. And lo and behold, the President came down and appointed more Supreme Court judges before they did the review, so that those judges went and voted alongside the minority side in the case to overturn the verdict. So it became a celebrated case where everybody felt that this is a clear political way of manipulating the courts. So when we were getting to discuss constitutional amendment, one of the key things that ran through everywhere, including submissions made by Nana Akufo-Addo, was that there must be an upper ceiling to the Supreme Court. I think I heard him somewhere even suggesting a ceiling of about 11 or so judges, when currently it was at 15. So when we came to power, we decided that, well, this is an area which has been a subject of controversy, and we have fielded a constitutional review commission which has gone to do their work. They have produced results. We have covered this thing. We have accepted the findings to be processed into full-blown constitutional amendments. And I think the Constitutional Commission fixed the upper limit at, I think, 15 or something. But the amendment has not been passed yet. So we try to live with the spirit of the consensus that has been built by the Constitutional Review Commission. So we never increase the number of judges at the at the Supreme Court. Then Nana Akufo-Addo came. Some judges retired, they have been replaced. Now you have 18 judges, and he continues appointing.
Is there a law against that?
That's why I'm saying that it is not about this, it's about what you have said. He, Nana Akufo-Addo, the president, has said earlier when he wasn't the president that there was the Supreme Court must have an upper limit, and the Constitutional Review Commission has suggested a limit, and we were all working in it. Because the constitutional amendments are not law yet. But we think that if you have a suggestion, very strong suggestion, that you think that this is what will move that institution forward. So you were even suggesting a number of around 11, and you even come to meet 15. Why would you go, if you are true to your conscience, Why would you go increasing the number to 18? And even appointing replacement of judges who are yet to retire in December, you are replacing them now. We are in May.
Is that what they said?
Well, so you have problems with our governance institution. The problem of this nation is about our governance institutions, how to strengthen the institutions and make them do independent work. If you are building a democracy and you focus on the will of individual strongmen, you will never have a democracy.
So you have an issue with the 4 that Parliament just approved
I have issue
on Wednesday going to the Supreme Court? Because they add on to the numbers that we have there.
That's why I'm saying that. Okay. I believe in
So you don't have an issue with the individuals?
No, I haven't commented about the individuals. I'm talking about the principle that, well, if we all think that there must be some Parliament, and we have accepted it, the Constitutional Review Commission took the views of MPP, took the views of Nana Akufo-Addo as a candidate at that time, took the views of NDC and all that. And we all suggested that this is a problem we are trying to solve. And then you go, ignore your own submissions, and you go to exacerbate the problem when you have the power to act. If somebody else is in power, then it's not good to increase. But when you get power, there's nothing wrong with increasing.
But when we have more Supreme Court justices, what would that mean? I mean, what's your fear?
The lack of upper limit of the number of justices who can be appointed. What it allows the government to find ways of influencing the work of the courts, which is bad. Because courts, by constitutional stipulations, are supposed to be independent. And in fact, one great pillar that supports democracy everywhere is the court system, the judiciary. You can have dictators, tyrants, everybody everywhere.
But these are are these not independent, independent-minded justices? How will they be influenced? I'm just interested in how you think.
I'm telling you, there are 2 levels of independence. The independence, the protection of the institution where nobody can sack them, nobody can bully them around and so on. That is provided by the Constitution. But the Constitution cannot guarantee decisional independence. And that decisional independence depends on the person who is making that decision. And it is very difficult to verify. You can only observe trends and draw your conclusions. So that is why the example that came up, which drew the attention of all Ghanaians, that if we allow the Supreme Court without an upper limit, then any government that is dissatisfied with the ruling of the Supreme Court, all they need to do is to appoint sufficient number of extra judges who will go to join the, what do you call it, the opposition side, the minority side in that decision, so that they will be.
But how would you know? How would you know they're going to vote in a certain way?
Because
if we say they are independent,
because of the history,
and they are of high moral integrity.
I'm saying
they've got character.
High moral integrity and character and all these things, they are all subjective things. They cannot be verified. That is why. But the trends that we have seen, people have conducted researches and done a correlation between the decisions of the court depending upon, which is very strongly related to which government appointed which judge. There's a research finding about that in the system. Okay, so if you're going by those things, and then the empirical evidence about President Kufuor's era, where the president himself announced that this decision will be reversed. And then he comes back and then takes steps to increase the number of judges there before the review is sent. And then the results of the review is that the new judges appointed just beefed out the numbers of those who were with, minority opinion, and lo and behold, the verdict was overturned.
So are you still for capping it?
Sure.
Or you've changed?
I am still for capping it.
Okay.
Because I'm not looking at things that will allow NDC to also come and victimize other people or to vindicate anything. If we continue doing that, we cannot build a good country. So I'm still for capping it.
All right.
But the challenge will be that Constitutional Review Commission has recommended 15 or so, and now somebody has come to increase it to 18. So when we are going to do the amendment in future, should we take it to 19 or should we leave it at 15? And if it is at 15, would you wait for 3 more judges to go on retirement without they being replaced, or you go to sack them, or how do you bring the number back to 15? These are issues that we continue to discuss.